Welcome to the deep dive. If you're trying to get a handle on important info fast, you're in the right place. Today, we're digging into something pretty crucial: how the U.S. president actually authorizes federal help during, well, major disasters and emergencies.
Exactly. And we're grounding this in the key legislation, which is the Stafford Act.
Yeah.
That's formerly the Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act.
Right.
It's in Title 42 of the U.S. Code, Section 5121, and the bits that follow. We've also got a helpful resource, looks like an official doc, IS-1000, Declaration Process and Authorization of Public Assistance.
Okay, so the Stafford Act, that's the bedrock here. What's the main power it grants the president in these situations?
Well, fundamentally, it allows the president to bring in federal assistance when an incident, or even the threat of one, is just too big for the territorial, tribal, and local governments to handle on their own.
Too big for them to handle.
Yeah, the scale just overwhelms their response capacity, their recovery ability. That specific law, the U.S. Code part, spells out when this power can be used and what kind of help could be given.
So it's really about that breaking point where local resources are totally swamped. What's the actual trigger then? When does the president officially say, okay, federal help is needed?
That is the trigger. It's the assessment that the size, the magnitude of the event really does exceed what the state and local folks can manage effectively.
Mm.
And it's not always, a simple calculation. It's about whether they have the resources, people, equipment, funds to actually respond and start recovery.
Mm.
Sometimes it's even about a threatened incident, if it looks like it's going to be overwhelming.
Right, so it's more about capacity than just, say, damage costs alone.
Precisely. Capacity is a key word here.
Okay. Now, the sources mention two ways the president can make this official: emergency declarations and major disaster declarations. Can you give us the quick difference?
Sure. So both are formal declarations under the Stafford Act. Think of an emergency declaration as often addressing more immediate specific needs, saving lives, protecting property, public health, that kind of urgent stuff.
Okay, immediate needs.
Then you have the major disaster declaration. This usually follows, well, more severe events, widespread damage, significant disruption. It opens the door to a broader range of federal programs, including, importantly, long-term recovery aid, things like rebuilding infrastructure.
So emergency is more immediate, maybe smaller scale or focused, and major disaster is for the bigger, longer-term recovery efforts.
That's a good way to think about it, yeah. Both are the official channels, the mechanisms the president uses, based on the Stafford Act, to authorize that federal assistance we've been talking about.
All right, let's recap quickly then. The president gets the power to send federal aid from the Stafford Act.
Correct.
This happens when state and local responders are overwhelmed.
Yes, that's the threshold.
And the formal step is issuing either an emergency declaration or a major disaster declaration.
Exactly right. Those declarations are what formally unlock the federal help defined in the Act.
So why should our listeners care about these, technical declarations? It feels a bit like government process stuff.
Well, it really matters because it dictates how quickly and effectively help arrives when communities are hit hardest. Understanding this shows how different levels of government are supposed to work together in a crisis.
Right. It's about how help actually gets delivered on the ground.
And it touches on the balance, between state and local responsibility and when the federal government needs to step in. That's relevant to everyone, really.
That brings up a good point for everyone listening to maybe think about. Consider the disasters you hear about. What kind of situation might warrant an emergency versus a major disaster declaration? And what does this balance between local effort and federal power really look like in practice? It's definitely something worth mulling over, where that line is drawn in different kinds of crises.
Absolutely. Some real food for thought there.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.